Hello and welcome to another Spark AR tutorial. Now this video will be the last video of the year on Spark AR. That doesn't mean I won't be potentially uploading some examples of filters I'm working on, but it will be the last tutorial on Spark AR for this year. So in this video we will be looking at how we can create randomness within our effect. And to do that, we're just going to simply create a kind of true, false, or maybe interaction. Now, I was planning on making this a lot more designer than what I've ended up doing, but I just wanted to make sure that this video is out in a semi-timely manner. So I'm just going to first off import my assets. So I have just created a series of 4 images. So my true, false, and maybe images alongside some question marks, and I'll import that into my project right now, and I'll make sure these are PNG to keep transparency. Next thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to add some rectangles to my scene, and I'll be using the canvas for these random elements. These could also work on planes, so this could be trapped in your 3D space, but I'm going to keep these on a 2D space just for this tutorial. I'm going to add my first rectangle. I'm going to rename this rectangle to true, or whatever is appropriate to what you're producing. I'm going to adjust its size to fill my width, and I'm also going to align this to the bottom of my canvas. I'm going to create a new material, and again this new material I'm going to follow the same name conventions, so I'm going to call this true. I'm going to give this material the true texture, make sure alpha test is turned on, and change its shader type to flat. Now, because I'm going to want to have multiple states, I'm going to just duplicate this rectangle 2 times, and I'm going to rename this first duplicate to be false, and this third one to be maybe. And I'm going to, on my false one, again, just create a new material, rename this new material false, and just repeating the process that was just done, assigning our elements as appropriate. And again, making sure that is flat and alpha test is turned on. And in our maybe, one more time, create a new material, rename this material maybe, and assign my maybe texture, alpha test on, shade type flat, like so. So I should now have true, false, and maybe on my canvas. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start adding in my kind of control system. So you could have a control system where it's done via object tap, or a control system done via facial interaction, and in this case I'm going to implement both, not at the same time, but I'm going to try implementing both just to show you how the two can be utilized. So if I want any interactions to be controlled by my face, I'm going to need to add a face tracker to my scene, like so. And I'm going to want to make sure that this is just parented to my camera, not to the canvas. And with this face tracker in there, it will allow me to create interactions for any number of facial expressions. Okay? So now I'm just going to open up my patch editor, and thankfully within the patch editor there is a very useful patch called random, and we'll be utilizing this a number of times. So the way that the random value works in this is you have a start value, so your start value by default is normally 0. I'm going to change that to be 1, and you'll see why later. And the end value would be the number of rolls or random times numbers it could be, so the number of possibilities. So in my case I have 3 possibilities, so my end value can be anything from 1, 2 or 3, so I'm going to have my random value end value to be 3. And now to start this randomization off, I would have to have my trigger. So this trigger could be a kind of object tap or screen tap. So for this I'm just going to go with a screen tap for speed reasons, and just add my tap to my randomize option. So now every time I tap the screen it will output a different number. Now when this randomizer works, the value output would be decimaled, so it wouldn't be a rounded number. So we need to make sure that after our randomize is outputting, that we add a round patch to round it to the nearest integer, because if we look here, every time I tap, it's giving us this 2.351, etc., which for this purposes would not be ideal. We want this to be either 2 or 3, depending on which number is nearest to. So this round action here will take the input number, even if it's got a decimal, and then output it as the nearest value to the initial integer. So now we have our screen tapped to our random to our round. We want to now have our round output perform an action. So I'm going to drag from my round patch into my area, and I'm going to add an equals exactly patch to it. So this means whatever number is output here, if it's equal to the number that we set down here, then it will output the desired action. So in this case, our first number that we want it to potentially to be would be 1. So if it is equal to 1, we want our true rectangle to be visible. I'm going to duplicate these two patches 2 more times, just changing the end equals exactly value to be a separate number. And you do this for the number of times that you want your random value to be able to potentially be. So I'm going to just connect my false to my second equals and my maybe to my third. Like so. So now you'll see that when our random number generated is 2, then this will become visible and these other 2 will not be visible. If I hit the screen again, it will randomize it again, and now if the number is 3, it will be a maybe. And if I keep doing this, when it equals 1, it will be true. So this is how randomness works. It's in the most simplest form, but at the moment it's not quite looking the way I want it to. It sort of just works, and there's no kind of animation to tell you that it's kind of thinking or doing something in the background. So to resolve that, I'm just going to add a kind of question mark animation to my scene. So I'm going to use my face tracker, and I'm just going to add a plane to my face tracker. I'm just going to pause my animation for a second and just move this plane up just above the head slightly. I'm going to create my new material and rename this new material to be question mark. Now anything that we attach to any of these values here, so we can have multiple things attached to each of these equals exactly. So if we wanted multiple things to be changed, we just connect them to the corresponding value here. Likewise, we could have numerous randoms with random elements here also coordinated to it. So you could build up a entirely random effect that shows one element in one area, another element in another area, and you could build up a very unique facial structure very simply, just by making sure that you keep the potential random elements for that area on top of each other and hidden when not in use. So with my plane and my question mark selector, I'm just going to choose my question marks texture, again making sure the alpha test is turned on and it's set to flat. So now you won't be able to see it very clearly because of the way that this is set up with the whole white background, but you'll see it in a bit. So I want it to be, every time my action is performed, I want this question mark to appear but have some motion to it. So the way I'm going to do that is we're going to use our transition value, and that's very similar to what we've been doing in previous tutorials. So now I want to, like I said, to add a bit of animation in there. So I'm going to link from my screen tap to a switch. So every time my screen is tapped, I want it to perform 2 actions. So in this case, I want it to start my randomizer off whilst also starting off my animation. I'm going to select my question mark plane. I'm just going to quickly rename this to something like thinking, maybe. Again, it's up to yourself what you'd call something like that. I'm going to link that to my switch, like so. And I'm going to make sure that my screen tap is not linked to the flip on the switch, but is linked to the turn on the switch. I'm also going to link out from my switch a loop animation. I'm going to turn on the mirrored option. I'm then going to drag from my loop animation to a transition. I'm going to select my thinking plane, select the scale of that. I'm going to just adjust my values here. So I'm going to go from 0.3, 0.3, 0.3 on all axes, and just link that to my 3D scale like so. And now now basically, largely speaking, if I was to just play this and tap screen, the animation should play. Like I said, I'm just going to change the material to make it more visible, so you can actually see it working. So let me just restart that. So you should see that the question mark start and the randomizer kicks in. Now we don't want the randomizer to give us the result straight away. We want it to have a bit of thinking time before the result is shown. So to do that, I'm just going to go back to the beginning of our screen tap before the random, and I'm just going to temporarily delete that connection, and I'm going to drag from my screen tap to a delay, and then link my delay to my randomize. And I also want to link from my delay to the reset on my loop animation. And I'm just going to give myself a period of duration, so let's say 5 seconds of thinking. And now if I just restart my application and preview it again, it should have 5 seconds of doing the question mark thinking animation, and then the result should be shown. I'm also going to link my delay to my turn off on my switch. So let's just restart that one more time and try again. So now it will think. It will show us our result and the question mark will disappear. And if we do it again, it should start the question mark thinking again and then give us a new result within 5 seconds. And because it's random, sometimes we'll just get the same result over and over again. But you can sort of see that we have a very basic randomizer within Spark AR, and you can do a lot more cool things with this than what I've shown you today. Like I said, this was intended to be a lot more visually impressive than what we've produced, but I just wanted to make sure that this video was out within, well, this week rather than within the next few weeks. So hence why we've got this result today. Now, if I wanted this to be triggered by a facial expression instead, I can just simply make sure that I remove my screen tap for a second, go to my face tracker and choose an interaction. So in my case, I want it to be every time my head is shakes. Let's just select all these and move these to the beginning. And then I just need to link from my head shake to my turned on and my input delay. And if I now preview this on myself, I'm just also going to make sure that I change the, oh, got a white background behind me, wow. Okay, so I'm actually just going to quickly recolor my question marks to see if that makes it more visible. So these question marks could be a 3D object, it could be birds circling, you know, there's a lot of things we could do. So see, I've just shook my head, so it's triggered it. It gives us a result. I shake my head again, it will restart the randomizer. I'll just keep doing it until I get the kind of different result I can. So in this case, this could be a kind of lie detector, I suppose. Obviously, there's no real logic behind it. It's not really detecting anything. It's just randomizing between 3 elements. This could be randomizing between 100 elements. You know, again, you can go crazy with this, but obviously, it's just a case of repeating these steps and making sure that everything is linked and rounded to nearest value. It doesn't have to be equals exactly. It could be if it equals less than 1, then it performs an action. You know, there's other actions we can link from that. but I do recommend if using a random to also use around just to make your life easier. But yeah, that has been creating a simple randomizer with Spark AR Studio, and I would love to see what you create with this, as always. Remember, if you have any queries, to post them in the comments below. If you like what I'm doing, like and subscribe. And I also have a Patreon, which is in the description below, but again, don't ever feel obliged to do that, because I'll still keep producing content for this channel for as long as possible. So there won't be any more Spark AR videos this side of 2019. There may be some more Spark AR kind of highlights, but I'm just sort of waiting until there is a kind of new plethora of features, or some of the bugs get fixed before I kind of progress, because I've kind of reached my kind of plateau at the moment for this year with this software, and I'd like to do other programs for a while. So I hope that you will stick with this channel at least until January. If you don't like my new content, let me know, but I'm planning quite a few ambitious things for December. Like I said, planning doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be uploaded in December, but I am planning a lot of big things to come. And as always, thank you for watching, and goodbye.